Hey guys, this is Homestead Dad again. In continuing with this little series on animal housing that we do on our homestead, not that it's the right way, but what we've done here, I wanted to show you guys what we've done for the sheep and the cows. Now, I built this next shelter when we just had sheep, and what I did was I had pallets on hand, and I got some exterior grade siding, wood siding from, I believe, Menards, and a couple 2x, and I built this. So what it is it's 3 pallets wide, set on end, and then just 1 deep. And it's not, I don't know if you guys, here, I'm about 6'3", and the peak of it here comes right underneath my armpit. So it's probably, I don't know, 50 inches, something like that. A little bit more than that maybe. But to get underneath this beam here, Oreo, who's not a big cow by any stretch of the imagination, she's probably 900 pounds, but you know, she's not huge. She can actually get in here. It's quite comical when she does it, but she can get in here no problem. And it's sturdy enough that I've actually been able to move it from its current location where it is right now. It had been right over there. You guys can see where that spot was. That's where it had been, and I moved it over here by myself. I just kind of got underneath it, lifted up one side, and just kind of scooched it all the way over. And for support, what I did underneath was I put a 2x4 almost right in the middle, and then a 2x, this is probably an 8 on the end here. So it doesn't have a real steep pitch to it, and I put a triangle block on the back of both sides, and then I just tacked a piece of wood on the front here to keep that 2x8 on there, and it's held up really well. We've had it for over 2 years now, and you can see on the edges here that the rams sometimes will just kind of brush their heads against it, so they've chipped off a little bit, but you know, it's held up pretty well. Now, if I were to do it again, knowing that I was going to have cows, I'd probably do something bigger, and I plan on building something bigger, but for now, this has worked pretty well. It's plenty big for the sheep. You know, you just orient it so that they're protected from the west and the north. For us, that way over there, straight that way, is west, and north is off by the house there. So it's not perfect, but the way the orientation is, they get sun in the morning, and they get protection from the rain, which kind of comes from most of our rain comes from the west and south. So that works well. I'm going to take you over closer to the gate and show you one other shelter that I've made for them. Okay, this next shelter is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It's definitely not pretty, but it works. I kind of subscribe to the Joel Salatin way of thinking, where as long as it gets the job done, it doesn't matter how ugly it is. And this, I just used some T-posts, some cattle panels, some tarp, or 1 tarp, and some zip ties. And I used the tallest T-post that I had at the time. And if you guys can see here, I put buckets on top of the T-posts that are in here so that the T-post didn't rip through the tarp. And so I just put 2 T-posts on this side. The other cattle panel was already up. So really, this only had me using 5 T-posts, which are the 2 for the cattle panel and the 3 for the peak. 1 cattle panel, some zip ties, and a tarp. And I got it built inside of an hour. I knew we were going to be getting some rain. We're going to have a pretty rainy week, and I wanted more shelter. And Oreo prefers this shelter over the other one. The one thing that is a problem about this shelter is it's not quite held tight enough. Like right here, I need to pull over and zip tie down so that the peak up here has no chance to hold water. Right now, with it being a little bit loose, when we get a torrential downpour, instead of shedding the water right here, it kind of sags in like this, and the water sits there and it kind of pulls everything together. So when that happens, it's actually, the tarp has boggled my mind, because I would have thought that it would have ripped by the amount of time and water that has sat on there. It's held up pretty well. So considering the amount of money I have into it, I cannot complain at all about this. So I do plan on building another shelter, a larger kind of, probably a little pole barn type building for the animals, especially if I'm going to get a milking cow. I want something that is a little bit easier to clean and a little bit more out of the weather, so that in the winter, if I'm milking, I'm not killing myself and freezing. So I just wanted to quickly show you the other side of this tarp shelter that I've made for the pasture animals. This side over here is facing due west. So like I said, a lot of our rain comes from the west and the southwest. Wind comes from the west and the northwest. So this offers, the way that it's oriented, offers the most amount of protection that I could with the least amount of changing things up. So it works out really well. Like I said, the tarp is held up well, so I'm very happy with it. But that's what we have for the sheep and the cows. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I always read the comments. And if you've liked any of these videos, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, or liking or commenting. It really helps the channel, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much, and we'll see you guys next time.